And so, Game Week 12 was another game week where my momentum continued to grow, with the distance to those behind me extended by a handful of points, and with the distance to Gladiator Glen at the top of the world's greatest mini-league closed even further. However, much like this spot in the middle of my eyebrows, I can't stop picking at my team, because a very good game week should have been even better. First, the moronic Madueke started to feel sorry for Steve Cooper, denying my Palmer a goal which would have given my Nico Jackson another assist. That's at least 8 points down the drain, and who knows what would have happened with the bonus points. And you know me, I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but I think Maresca must have felt sympathy for the man who replaced him in the Leicester hot seat, because Chelsea then went and gave away a stupid penalty in stoppage time. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, like I always am. My first thought was Sanchez is gonna save this penalty, and I'm gonna have the most spectacular start to the game week I could ever have dreamed of. But of course Sanchez didn't save the penalty. He's no Dean Henderson, who of course I sold on my wild card. So in addition to the 8 points Madueke cost me, that docile Chelsea defence went and cost me another 4-8 at the death, and it was all in vain, because Leicester went and sacked that Ned Schneebly wannabe the next morning anyway.
You can blame it all on bad luck, but in the end, maybe we just weren't that good. Sometimes you gotta know when to quit.
Maybe you're right, maybe I suck.
So after the first match of the game week, I was already somewhat irked, and then later on, Wissa went to Goodison Park and gave his best Dominic Calvert-Lewin impression, before Norgard went and got himself sent off and forced Brentford to close up shop, meaning fumbling Flecken went and kept the first clean sheet of, I believe, his entire life, giving far too many people 9 points. Then over at Craven Cottage, that blasted Matthias Cunha kept his Papi Cisse parody going on and scored another 16 points. And let me tell you, as someone that advocated for the wonderful Jorgen Strand Larsen, every single spectacular goal that Cunha scores feels like a dagger in my heart. It feels like the Brazilian barnstormer watches the FPL Nightmare videos, and why wouldn't he? They're bloody brilliant. And then Cunha saw my advocation for his strike partner and decided to make it his own personal vendetta to derail my season. Like all he needed to kick his career into overdrive was the motivation to prove me wrong. Well, if Cunha thinks I'm getting involved in some sort of pissing contest with him, let me tell you right now, he couldn't be more wrong, because I'd sign him up in a heartbeat. Just not this week, because I can't quite afford him yet, and I'm not getting rid of Wissa when he plays Leicester, and he owes me big time. Furthermore, out of Vissa, Joao Pedro and Cunha, I actually think Wissa gets the most points in Game Week 13, so it makes no sense to sell him just yet at all. So I'm sticking to my master plan and roll in my transfer. Team value be damned. And you might think I'm a bit frustrated this week, and you couldn't be more right, because I tell you what else wound me up. Bruno Fernandes doing absolutely nothing against one of the worst teams in the league, while a 5-man Man United defence somehow conceded to them. And of course Dalot played the full match this week. Why wouldn't he, when they've already conceded? He couldn't make it to 60 minutes last week when they kept a clean sheet, could he? But no, this week he's all over the pitch. And who knows, maybe the two things are linked and Man United defend better without Dirty Diogo. I wouldn't know, because I was too busy drinking coffee up at the secret rendezvous point with Jock and Jeeves to watch that match. And maybe I should prioritise scouting my squad over debating the merits of PCs versus Macs. But sometimes a man just needs to disengage from the game. And with this hectic schedule coming up in the FPL world, we could all do with learning how to manage our FPL obsession better before the festive frenzy chews us up and spits out the bones. And indeed it will prove a challenging period, but this is where we find out what each and every FPL manager is made of. And while I've so far highlighted what went wrong in Game Week 12, there was an awful lot that went right for my wonderful lords. Liverpool conceded twice and Man City surrendered 4 goals, wiping out defensive gains for my rivals. The Starboy gave me 13 points that somehow nobody else in the upper reaches of the world world's greatest mini-league wanted to possess. Despite being denied 1 assist by his bumbling brethren, Nico Jackson did partake in some high-stakes gladiator hunting and rifled home 12 sharp-shooting points that even Brett the Hitman Hart would have been proud of. And this week I learned from my mistake and I went for the safe captaincy option of Mr. Consistency Mohamed Salah, and I revelled in Mighty Mo bringing home that beautifully boring 26 points. And though my Newcastle boys were ultimately disappointing, they did enough to close that gap by a handful of points. But even so, I'm as greedy as it gets and I was still somewhat disappointed. Oh, for that Wissa goal. Oh, for that Sanchez clean sheet. Oh, for Noni Madueke not to be such a flaming idiot. Still, you can't win them all, and over the last few game weeks we have got that momentum shifted in our favour. So yes, while I wish it had gone just that little bit better, game week 12 could have gone an awful lot worse. While I did leave Mikalenko's 6 points out of my team for the second game week running, at least I didn't do what Gladiator Glenn did and leave a 16-point player on the bench. And while you could argue that leaving a player who's been recently rotated out of your starting 11 is an understandable mistake to make, that is not something the Gladiator can fall back on. You see, the Gladiator signed Virgil van Dijk this week, and then he went and benched Andy Robertson. Where oh where is the logic in signing a defender from one team and then benching another defender from the very same team, especially when it means benching a 7.5 million midfielder? Why wouldn't you just sign a different attacking player who had a greater chance to influence proceedings? However you dress it up, it was a massive mistake from Mighty Morton, and you have to wonder if perhaps the mental pressure is beginning to get to him. If perhaps my mind games from last week's video affected his judgment and my serpent tongue led him right down that garden path to the forbidden fruit. And now the Gladiator is overcome with the knowledge of what the world's greatest mini-league is all about, and now he faces an almighty task to correct the course of his faltering campaign before the FPL Gods cast him out of the championship paradise altogether. But I think he'll be alright in game week 13 because his squad looks fine on paper to me, and let's face it, he's far from the only FPL manager to make a mistake. I make mistakes all the time, like captaining Mbumo last week and bringing in Rico Lewis on my wildcard, and you know what, I'm going to keep on making them too. With 15 players to select, 2 wildcards, 4 other trips to play and 38 captains to choose, that's an awful lot of decisions that can go wrong over the course of an FPL season, and we will all get far more decisions wrong than we'll get right. It's the nature of the beast. After all, we're betting on predicting the top scorers in 10 games a week with only 1 permitted change ahead of each set of fixtures. It's a bloody difficult thing to do, and sometimes I think we're all a bit guilty of forgetting that. Indeed, for me, the secret to FPL success is always to minimise the chances of things going wrong and to maximise the opportunity to get lucky. And when you look at my front 7, I believe they give me the best chance of doing that. That's 7 big players in big teams with great fixtures to come. What more can you ask for? The key for me is going to be that budget striker position, and though getting Joao Pedro in this week and saving some funds is tempting, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm pretty set on sticking with Wissa and leaving the opportunity for Cunha next week open. And like I said, I would not be surprised if Vissa's the man who gets the most points of all 3 of those strikers this week. And how I'd get the funds for Cunha, I don't yet know. Maybe I'd sell Dallo for a budget defender. Maybe I'd sell Bruno Fernandes for Rashford, Gordon, Mitoma or Bowen. Maybe I even give Vissa the Aston Villa game and sell both my Man United players. Maybe I even roll again and give myself 3 transfers in game week 15. The key factor is I have options and I am operating from a position of strength, which means those green arrows are likely to keep on puncturing the Gladiators' defences. And my lords, I likely to keep climbing up the ranks. And I know mighty Morton is counting the days until the turn of the year when that next grand reset becomes available, because not only does my late wildcard give me the position of strength in this title race, but it's not just me hunting the gladiator down. King Dean still has his wildcard to play, and having had a disappointing game week 12, maybe game week 13 is when he pulls the trigger. Ilo Hodgson and Dan Gestoso Cabezas remain in the mix, so again in game week 12 I put a little bit more distance between those guys and myself, making it a little bit harder for them to chase me down, never mind the gladiator. Right there with me in the gladiator hunting is Dan the Dragon, but while he's 3 further points behind me than last week, no ground was lost on the gladiator, so the Dragon's confidence continues to grow. We're all out here racking up the points, while the gladiator's racking his brains for a solution, and he can't seem to find one, and he needs to find that solution before his shrinking lead is whittled away altogether, because I think if he does fall from top spot he's gonna keep on dropping like so many first time leaders of the League of Gentlemen do. But maybe he will manage to find a solution before that shrinking lead is wiped out altogether, or maybe he'll come to discover he has no answer for the former champs hunting him down, including the uncontent creator out here writing his own script and bending destiny to his will like some sort of soothsaying soccer Shakespeare. Only time will tell if Glenn can break the spell in his own world, and we won't have long to wait to find out, with 3 game weeks in 8 highly intense days to come. This is the part of the season my master plan has been building towards, and now it's here, and the excitement and the anxiety are palpable. These are the game weeks where the story of the season starts to take shape, and I can't wait to find out what the narrative will be and how much it'll be like the one I'm trying to craft. And so, ahead of the first of 3 hypermanic head-bending game weeks that'll go a long way to deciding the course of the season, let me just say, may all your transfers be successes, may all your arrows be green, and may those FPL gods be in your favour. Breathe in the air of anticipation for what's to come by hitting that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.
It's an FPL Nightmare, company pulling out more, yeah. I'm the greatest football manager to ever grace the old armchair, but the FPL gods hate me, and no one seems to care that my points are only average, and my ranking is not fair.